Gora Draganya Gana Gocha Goloruhadam Goranga Gudatama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshika Vadam Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangira Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Padama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustad Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabanga Pahimam Vansha Kalpataru Kripa Sindhu Vyahevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, so nice to see everybody here tonight. Tirtha Prabhu, welcome to this little program. We've been doing this, I don't know, Jai Gaur, how long have we been doing these classes? Can you say?
I don't know, maybe 2 years, year
At
and a half.
least 2 years. I think even more than 2 years, actually, because
Oh,
anybody else have any thoughts? Natalia, how long have we been doing this? Do you remember?
I joined it 2 years ago, and before it, you have for half a year, for the whole summer, you were meeting.
That sounds about right. 2.5 years. Anybody read any comments about that? It sound right to you?
I think it's around 3 years.
3 years, So we're gonna. So this is our 12th session on this one verse, as Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj likes to say. Madhavan is inching his way forward. Yeah, I like to just unpack things in a nice way, in a leisurely way. So our 12th session we've had on this particular verse, and it's the second session on a particular aspect of it, the guardian and custodian of Gora Prema, this Krishna Prema Mahaprabhu is given, this Anarpita Chirim Chirat verse. So we've got it on the screen. We can go ahead and recite this, and then maybe Jaguar, you can read the English. Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatirna Kalo Samarpaitam Ujjvala Rasam Svabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratuva Sachinandanaha. Jai.
may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love.
So we're speaking about this point, samarpayitam, unata ujvala rasa svabhakti shriyam. That samarpayitam, that Mahaprabhu is bestowing this. So I want to go to our commentary. This point, this is something we translated and printed in our Krishna Katami, the Bindu magazine. And we were hearing in our last session about how if Mahaprabhu is distributing this Krishna prema to everyone, if he's the main distributor, which is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, then who's the devotee in charge of this treasure house? And who's the doorkeeper? And does the treasure house have gates or not? So we want to speak of it. We spoke something about the guardian of this this treasure house before, the custodian or guardian, and that's Nityananda Prabhu in our last session, and how because Nityananda Prabhu is also a combined incarnation according to our acharyas, according to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta and Kavi Karnapa and others, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna, Chaitanya Radha, Krishna Nahiyanya, the combined form of Radha and Krishna, so also Balaram Heno Nitai, Nityananda Prabhu is a combination of Balaram and Ananga Manjari, the younger sister of Srimati Radharani. And because he has that position, he's the guardian of this treasure house. So we want to speak something today about the doorkeeper of this treasure house, and that's Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami is glorified by Raghunath Das Goswami in the beginning of his Vilak Kusumanjali. He says, Vairagya Yug Bhakti Visam Pragatnai Apayayam Mam Anibipsam Andam Kripambudirya Padaduka Duki Sanatan Tam Prabhum Ashrayami. He says, Sanatanam Tam Prabhu Ashrayami, that I take shelter of Srila Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami, he's Vairagya Yuga Bhakti Rasam Prayatna. He's the ocean of mercy. He's that personality who's Vairagya Yug. He's endowed with Vairagya, but not ordinary Vairagya. Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam. He's endowed with this renunciation with Bhakti. Our Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not interested in renunciation by itself. Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he very strongly says that if someone just simply tries to cultivate renunciation, the result will be they'll become hard-hearted. On the other hand, we find that the gopis, they're the example of renunciation. Shriman Rasa Rasadam Vivam Sivatata Sita Karsham Venusvana Gopir Gopinath Sri Vishnu. When Gopinath Krishna blew on his flute at Vamsivat, the gopis, they gave up everything. They gave up their small children, they gave up their husbands, they were cooking, they just walked out of cooking, they gave up everything for Krishna. But their renunciation was a manifestation of their devotion to Krishna. It wasn't a calculated intellectual effort, thinking, oh, I should give this up, this will be good for me, or something. And therefore, my Guru Maharaj, once, and it's an individual thing, I should say, but once I approached him, and I said, Guru Maharaj, I'm thinking to do some brata for Kartik and chant 1 lakh a day and do this and this. And Guru Maharaj told me, you can't do that. Oh. And then later again, I went back and I said, Guru Maharaj, I'd like to do this thing if it pleases you. It really was on my mind. And Guru Maharaj said, if you want to do it, you go ahead and do it. I said, no, Guru Maharaj, I want to do this for you, if it pleases you. And Guru Maharaj said, I'm not going to tell you. And I was a little confused. I was hoping it would be a lot simpler. And then he told me, he said that my Guru Maharaj, he didn't do like this. And I don't do like this. I'm not, he said, I've only chanted 16 rounds. I've not done all these austerities and things. But he said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta did. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur did. And if you want, you may do. And I said, well, Guru Maharaj, my understanding is that there's not much benefit in doing something unless it's pleasing to Guru. So I'm thinking not to. Guru Maharaj said, very good. You don't do. So Gaudiya Vaishnavas don't always do these things. Sometimes they do these things. But in general, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, when they perform some austerities, it's a manifestation of their bhakti. Although Bhaktivinoda Thakur, also he's written some article about this subject, and we've spoken at length about it before, that for neophyte devotees it also helps to control their senses. But ultimately, my Guru Maharaj's point was that if you want to control your senses, the best practice is bhakti. So he's offering his pranams, Raghunath Das Goswami, to Srila Sanatan Goswami, addressing him as Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatna, that he's endowed with this Vairagya, but it's Vairagya with Bhakti Rasa. And Prayatna Apayayam, that he, with great effort, he made me drink this thing. He made me drink this Bhakti Rasa. Such a very nice thing. This was Kripam Buddhya. This was his mercy upon me, even though, he says, Ana Bipsum, Undam, even though Undam, I'm a blind person, I didn't understand. Being blind, I don't know what's good for me, what's not good for me. Ana Bipsum, I was unwilling even. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to drink that thing, but he forced me. Prayatna means with some intensity. He forced me to do this thing. Apayayan, and he made me mad to drink this. And that Sanatan Goswami, who's Kripambudir, Ya Paraduka Duki, he's an ocean of mercy. And he becomes unhappy, Duki, when he sees the duk, or the unhappiness of other persons. Sanatanam Tam Prabham Ashrayami. I offer my pranams to that Sanatan Goswami. So it's Sanatan Goswami who's a doorkeeper of this treasure house that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is holding. How is he the doorkeeper? Why don't we say Rupa Goswami? We're Rupa Nugas. Or maybe why don't we say Haridas Thakur? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed on Nam. Haridas Thakur, he's the Namacharya. Why is Sanatan Goswami stressed so much? Or maybe we might say Gadadhar Pandit. If Nityananda Prabhu is the custodian, then the person who's guarding the gateway, maybe that's Gadadhar Pandit. Why Sanatan Goswami? So this is our question today that we want to focus on. Krishna Kun, could I have your keyboard? I'd like to sing a little bit from a song by the poet Manohar Das. This is something that we printed in issue 477 of our Krishna Katama, the Bindu magazine. Thank you. Put this over here. Jaya Jaya Paho Srila Sanatana Nam Shakala Bhuvana Macha Jachu Gunagram. Jaya Jaya, all glories, Pahu Srila Sanatan Nam, to that person known as Sanatan Goswami. Shakala Bhuvana Macha Jahu Gunagram. He's a mine, a great, gold mine of good qualities for the entire world. Bijala Shakala Shuka Sampadapa Sri Chaitanya Charana Bhugala Karusa. That Sanatan Goswami, he gave up all of his material comforts of life. Bijala Shakala Shuka, all the happiness they get from that. And Sri Chaitanya Charana Bhugala Karusa. He just accepted the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the essence of everything. Sri Vrindavana Bhumi Koribas, Lupata Tirtha Shaba Koila Prakash. He lived in Vrindavan, And there in Vrindavan, Lupata Tirtha, all the hidden tirthas, Sabakorila Prakash, he revealed all those places in Jagannath Puri. Excuse me, in Vrindavan Dham. I'm thinking about Puri. And then importantly, the poet sings, Shri Govinda Seva Padachari Karala Bhagavata Arta Bichari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Govinda Seva Parichari, that he preached the service of Govinda, Krishna. And Karala Bhagavata Arta Vichari. This is the refrain of the song. He revealed the Bhagavat Arta, or the inner meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is how it is that Sanatan Goswami Prabhu, how he is the doorkeeper. Because that Srimad Bhagavatam is necessary. It's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that Prema Mohi Bhagavata, Krishna Rashri Anga, that the Srimad Bhagavatam is just made out of Krishna Prema. Adavantecha Madhecha Hari Sarvata Giyate. From the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's just about Krishna. Prema Mohi Bhagavata, Krishna Rashri Anga. It's an Anga, it's part of the body of Sri Krishna. So Sanatan Goswami is very famous because he's given us the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sanatan Goswami had a special relationship with the Bhagavatam that illustrated, that extended throughout his entire life. And Rupa Goswami has described this in his Hamsadutta. It's a book that Rupa Goswami is said to have written before he and Sanatan had ever met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami describes it. Prapana premanam prabhavati sada bhagavata bhak parachino janma vadai bhavarasad bhakti maduraha chiram kopi shriman jayati vidita sakarataya durino dhiranam aridarani vayasakiriva. He says that all glories, forevermore all glories, to that great soul who is known as Sanatan Goswami. That personality, Prapana Premanam Prabhavati Sada Bhagavata Bhak. He's filled with the greatest love for the Lord. Prapana Premanam Prabhavati. He has the purest love for the Lord. And Sada Bhagavata Bhak. He's very learned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Parachino Janmavadi Bhavara Sad Bhakti Maduraha. From his very birth, Janmavadi, he was indifferent or detached from all the pleasures in this world. And instead, Bhavara Sad Bhakti Maduraha. He was absorbed in the sweetness of bhakti. And this personality, he's the leader of all the devotees, and moreover, Adidharani Vyasakir Iva. He's just like Vyasakir, or Shukadeva Goswami, who's present here on the earth. So when Rupa and Sanatan Goswami were staying in Ramakeli, very wonderful place, maybe some of us could go there together someday, Prabhupada Priya Sevak, formerly known as Pradosh. And I went there many years ago, and we did some research and wrote an article about Ramakeli for Krishna Katamrita magazine. There's still many places of Rupa and Sanatan there. And I always had this desire when we were there, we were just there for a short time. I had a desire that we could go there and just do bhajans and just read and hear and chant. But instead we were mostly taking pictures, and that was our program at that time. So these two brothers, at that time they were known as Sri Amaradev, Sanatan Goswami, Sri Santosh Dev, Rupa Goswami. They were ministers in the government of Nawabu Singh Shah. Sanatan Goswami had the title of Sakara Mulak. He was the prime minister, and Rupa Goswami had the title of Tabir Kash, the private secretary Nawab Hussain Shah. And they had their younger nephew, younger brother Vallabha, later known as Anupam, and they were staying there at Ramakeli. And even today, if you go to Ramakeli, they made a Radhakund, Shamakund, they made kunds for all the different Asasakis, they created forests, and those trees are still there today, 500-year-old trees. And some of the same buildings of the prison house where Sanatan Goswami was held by Nawab Hussain Shah is still there. The Sabha, or the court of Nawab Hussain Shah is still there, and a number of things. And some of the deities that our Goswamis worshipped while they were there are still there. The place where Nityananda Prabhu sat when he visited there is still there. Many, many wonderful places. It's known as Ramakeli because Lord Ramachandra performed some pastimes there in Treta Yuga. So Sanatan Goswami, from his earliest childhood, he was absorbed in making a replica of Vrindavan in Ramakeli. And it's a significant contribution to our Sampradaya that he made, because we see even today that many devotees now, they're starting to realize the importance of Dambas, but it's not always practical to come and live in India. Sometimes it's a little crazy trying to stay here. It's like being in the wild, wild west in America or something. There's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of crazy things, it's very dirty, it's very hot. So it's difficult sometimes for Western devotees. Somehow I like it, but Indradyumna Maharaj told me once, not so long back, he said that you're staying in India doing all these austerities. I said, I don't know, Maharaj, this seems nice to me. But anyway, it's difficult for a lot of Westerners. So many devotees now, they're wanting to build some Vrindavan in their particular place. And we have New Vrindavan in America, we have New Mayapur in France, we have in Lithuania, that there's a Vrindavan. They've made a Radhakund, Shamakund, Govardhan Hill, and Barsana, in different places. Many devotees are working on these things today. And the example to begin with of this was Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami established a deity there in Madan Mohan, who's still there today. And he established all those different tanks that I mentioned. And Sanatan Goswami, it's described in Bhakti Ratnakar, that he would just sit on underneath a Kadamba tree in the bank of Shamakund, and he would chant and he would cry. And in the Bhakti Ratnakar, it tells a story from the early life of Sanatan Goswami, which gives us a little understanding of how he's the doorkeeper to the storehouse of Prema that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought. Shri Sanatanera Ati Adbhuta Charit Srimad Bhagavate Jana Ati Shraya Prit Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says that Sanatan Goswami, Ati Adbhuta Charit, his personality, his nature was adbhuta, very, very astonishing, very wonderful. Ati adbhuta charit. Srimad Bhagavate Jana Atishoya Prit. And he had great priti, great love for the Srimad Bhagavatam. Pratama Bhayashe Shrapna Eka Vipravar Srimad Bhagavata De Ananda Antai. When Sanatan Goswami, during his Bayas years, when he was youth, Swapne, one day in a dream, Eka Vipravar, one Brahman appeared before him, and Srimad Bhagavat the day, he gave him a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ananda Antara, and Sanatan Goswami became full of ecstasy when he saw this Brahman in his dream giving him that Bhagavatam. Swapna Bange Sanatana Vyakula Hoila Pratishevi Prashimad Bhagavata Dila. Swapna Bange. Banga means to break something. Sometimes somebody, if they're sick in West Bengal, they say, Amar Sharir Banga, my body's broken. Or they say, Amar Sharir Ashuk, my body's unhappy, literally. So Swapna Bange Sanatana Vyakula Hoila. That when that dream broke and Sanatan Goswami woke up, he was disturbed. Pratise Vipra Srimad Bhagavata Dila. And then later on, an amazing thing happened. The same Brahman that Sanatan Goswami saw in his dream came to him that day and gave him a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. Pahiya Shri Bhagavata Mahaharsha Chitte Magna Hoila Prabhu Prema Amrita Samudrete Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Paya Shri Bhagavata Mahaharsha Chitte. When he got Paya Shri Bhagavata, that Bhagavatam, Mahaharsha Chitta, he became ecstatic. Magna Hoila Prabhu Prema Amrita Samudrita. He merged in an ocean of prema. Srimad Bhagavata Arta Yaiche Asvadila Taha Shri Vaishnava Toshanite Prakashila Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. The Srimad Bhagavata Arta. Arta means the understanding, the meaning. The meanings that he was getting from that Bhagavatam, Jaichi Asvadila, that he was relishing. He wasn't just intellectually understanding it, as we oftentimes comment, but he was relishing that. Tahashi Vaishnava Toshaniti Prakashila. And that relishment that he had for the Bhagavatam, Prakashila, revealed or manifested in the form of the Vaishnava Toshani, or sometimes it's called Brihad Vaishnava Toshani. Srila Sanatan Goswami's commentary on the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And it's described that after this thing happened, after he had this dream, saw this effulgent Brahmin come and give him this Bhagavatam, and the next morning that happened, the same person he saw in his dream came to him and gave him the Bhagavatam. Sanatan Goswami began to become really serious about reading the Bhagavatam every day. Some inspirations there. Later on in Kashi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave personal instructions to Sanatan Goswami about the essence of the Bhagavatam. And then based on those teachings, later on, Sanatan, he compiled the Digdarshani Tipika, which is a commentary on Hari Bhakti Vilas. And he also wrote the Vaishnava Toshani, Brihad Vaishnava Toshani, and the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Brihad Bhagavatamrita means literally the great Bhagavatam. And that Brihad Bhagavatamrita is an expansion of the normal Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sanatan Goswami was so attached to the Bhagavatam. He compiled some prayers in his book, Sri Krishna Lila Stava. Very wonderful book. It's an active book. Just like sometimes for children, they have activity books. I remember when we used to travel, once my mother drove us in a car from Colorado to California. And so when we were driving in the car, and she had 3 little boys who were about, 6 and 4 and 2 in the car, she gave us some activity books. So an activity book is something which you read, but it also gives you something to do. So Krishna Lila Stava is kind of like the original activity book, in the sense that each one of the verses, or each section of the verses, are different pranams, different obeisances that Sanatan Goswami offers to different manifestations of the Lord, different devotees, the Dham, and different features of the Lord. So in text 412 and 413, he offers obeisances to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Shashabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satphala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Dritprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kali Danvoti Dityaya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. He prays that my dear Srimad Bhagavatam, Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, that this, out of all the different shastras, which are just like an abdi, abdi means an ocean, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most prominent out of all the Sarva Vedaika Satphala. It's the Satphala, or the transcendental fruit of Sarva Vedaika, of all the different Vedic literatures, of all different Sarva Shastradi Piyusha, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya. Out of all the different Siddhantas, all the philosophical conclusions, it's a Srimad Bhagavatam who is Ratnadya, who is like the jewel of all those conclusions. Sarva Lokaika Dritpada. Drik means to see. That the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives us vision to see. Therefore, my Guru Maharaj used to say, if you don't do any other sadhana, every day you should hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Bhagavata Prana. He says that my dear Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhu, that you're the life breath, you're the prana of all the Bhagavatas, all the devotees of the Lord. You're the supreme worshipable personality for all the devotees. In Kali, Dvanto Tidaditya. Aditya means the sun. And you're the Uda Aditya, Udita Aditya. You're the sun which is risen in the age of Kali. Kali, Dvanta Udita Aditya. That you've dissipated the Dvanta, or the darkness of the age of Kali, by rising. So the Srimad Bhagavatam it's not an optional thing. It's so very, very important. Paramananda Patnyaya Prema Varshakshayarate Sarvanda Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostu Me. Paramananda Pataya. Just by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Pata means to read, you get that Paramananda. You get that greatest bliss. Prema Varsh Aksharayate. The syllables, the akshari of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or just like Prema Varshi, they're like a rain of Prema, Krishna Prema that's coming down. And you're showering those down upon the reader. Sarvada, he says, Sarvada, Sarva Sevyaya. That always, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it should be served by everyone, not just by Pandits or by Sanskrit scholars, but it should be served by everyone. And he says, why? Shri Krishnaya Namostu Me. I offer my obeisances to you, Srimad Bhagavatam, because you're an incarnation of Krishna. And then one of my favorite verses, Sanatan Goswami goes on to say, Mad eka bando mad sangin mad guru man mahadana man istaraika mad bhagya mad ananda namostute. Mad eka bando. You're my only friend. But you're really my friend. You're not a fair weather friend. You're not a friend just because you want something. But you're my best friend because you give me the best thing. Mat Sangin. You're Mat Eka Sangin. You're my only companion that I have, that I can really walk with and really trust. Mat Eko Mad Guru. You're my only guru. Man Mahadhana. You're my great wealth that I have. Man Nistaraka. You're that personality who can deliver me. Mad Bhagya. You are my good fortune. And Madananda Namostute. You're my Ananda. You're my happiness. Namostute. I offer my obeisances to you again and again. Asadu saduta dayan ati nichocha taraka hanamuncha kadachin mam premna hrit kantayosriya. Again, he praises Srimad Bhagavatam, who's that personality who asadu sadhu to dayan. For persons who are asadu, who are rascals and rogues. Asadu, they're not sadhus. Sadhu to dayan. The Srimad Bhagavatam will give them saintly qualities. Therefore, it's said about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Uttama Adama Kichina Bachila Dachi Adileka Ko. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't consider who was elevated, who was fallen. He just accepted everyone. And so this is the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is open for everyone. Ati Nicho Chataraka. Even someone who's Ati Nicha, Nietzsche means to be fallen. We say turnadapi. Nietzsche, that Nietzsche word is there, and turnadapi sunichina, sunichia. That I'm very, very fallen. We feel like that. Ati Nietzsche. He says, oh, someone may be very, very low. But the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ucha Taraka, that Srimad Bhagavatam will lift them up. It will, Taraka means to deliver. It will deliver them. It will lift them up. Hana muncha kadachin mam. Oh, he's crying out. Nah, don't, please don't. Muncha means to give up. Please don't give me up. You please, mam premna kantayaspara. You please accept me. You please manifest in my heart and on my throat, accompanied along with pure love for Krishna. My Guru Maharaj used to sometimes ask a question when he would recite his Bhagavatam Mangala Charana, which we gave some classes on a year or so ago or something. He would say that what is the verse? It's not coming to my mind. Uttama Adama Kicha. Oh, I know it. Jaho Bhagavata Pada Vaishnavarastani Ekanta Ashray Kodev Chaitanya Charani. He said that Srup Damodar Goswami speaks this verse, and he says that you should take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jala Bhagavata Pada. You should take shelter of a pure devotee to hear Bhagavatam. And Jala Bhagavata Pada, Vaishnavarastani, Ekanta Ashray Kodev Chaitanya Charani. And you should take one pointed shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the question he raised was, what is the necessity of taking shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand Srimad Bhagavatam? And the answer is because Srimad Bhagavatam is Prema Moya Bhagavat, that it's simply full of Krishna Prema. And if you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, then you have to have Krishna Prema. There's no other way. You can't understand Srimad Bhagavatam in any other fashion. So let me see here. I would like to now go to our next discussion. The commentary, which is accredited to Srila Jiva Goswami, goes on to say, does this treasure house have gates or not? So now we know who's the custodian. It's Nityananda Prabhu. He's in charge of it. Sanatan Goswami is the doorkeeper of the storehouse of love of God, because that storehouse of love of God is the Srimad Bhagavatam. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is being opened by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sanatan Goswami, because he wrote Brihad Vaishnav Toshani, this commentary in the 10th canto, he's considered to be the doorkeeper of this treasure house of Srimad Bhagavatam, of love of God. So then the commentator speaks something about the gates to this this treasure house. So because he points out that not everybody who reads the Bhagavatam gets prema. We've been speaking some about this in different classes. Some people, they speak on the Bhagavatam to get followers, or to get money, or to try to control people. And it doesn't really seem like they're getting Krishna prema. So he makes his comment that not everyone who reads the Bhagavatam gets prema. So then how can we say that Mahaprabhu is distributing prema through the Bhagavatam? So to answer this, the commentator explains. He says that even though the Bhagavatam doesn't give prema to one and all, still it's known as Premada. Premada means someone who gives Krishna prema. And that's because personalities who are crooked cheaters, who are Dharmadvajis, or who are just waving the flag of Dharma and acting like they're religious, they're rejected from getting that prema. And then he goes on to explain how there are three types of these prema kapatis, calls them, or cheaters in religion. And interestingly, as I mentioned, I think in our last session, I came across a lecture, actually I was present, it was in 1995 in Bhubaneswar, where my Guru Maharaj spoke about the same topic. And we're going to go and see what he had to say. But first of all, let's just go to the commentary. There's three types of crooked persons who are rejected. Three types of persons who they're not getting Krishna Prema, even though they're reading Srimad Bhagavatam. One is a Dhana Kapati, someone who's crooked due to wealth. The second is Bala Kapati, someone who's crooked because he has strength, but he doesn't show his strength. And the third one is Prema Kapati. They're a crooked person because they're showing some false displays of Krishna Prema. So my Guru Maharaj commented on this. Let's see here. Let me read that present right now. Leela Purushottam Babu, are you alive there?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I'm driving in a car, so I'm just off the video.
Probably not the best time. I was going to ask you to.
I'm not driving. I just sit.
It's okay. It's also a little hard to hear your voice, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'll read this myself. What I'll do though is I'll show this on a screen so everybody can also see it. A very nice thing from Guru Maharaj's lecture. Let me just find my screen share. There are three types of crooked persons: Dhana Kapati, Bala Kapati, and Prema Kapati. Dhana Kapatis are persons who have wealth, but they don't spend it to propagate Bhagavad Dharma. They never give donations to Bhakti Bhagavat or the Vaishnavas who are propagating Bhagavad Dharma. They are the number one type of Kapati, crooked persons. They never spend their wealth for the service of Sri Guru, Krishna, or the Vaishnavas, but instead they spend so much money in other ways. They are Kripana, misers. They cannot understand Bhagavad Dharma. They cannot get the mercy of Mahaprabhu. They cannot get Prema, even though Mahaprabhu is offering it. So implicit in this point is that a Dhana Kapati, Dana means wealth and Kapati means a duplicitous or crooked person. They're duplicitous because they're holding on to their wealth. In other words, if someone's really a devotee, the Sarup Lakshana, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, the primary characteristic of a Vaishnava, Sarup Lakshana, is saranagati, is to be surrendered. They give everything, and they don't worry how they're going to get anything themselves. I heard a story once that some devotees were going out regularly and doing collection for the Gaudiya mission at the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And one of them was a really big collector. We always have some big collector. He's a very big collector. He's getting lots of money. And he thought to himself, every day I give all my money, and then later on I go and I ask him for a few paisa, for some toothpaste or some soap or something. And why should I bother Guru Maharaj like that? Why should I bother? I've got all this Lakshmi, I'll just keep a little bit of it for myself, just for the soap or whatever. And so when he came back that day, they used to give all the money to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And they gave all the money. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then he said, "Is this everything that you collected?" And the devotee said, "Yes, Guru Maharaj, it's everything." He said, "Is this everything? You've given everything that you collected here?" And the devotee said, "Well, Guru Maharaj, actually, I collected a few other paisa, a small, insignificant amount. I put aside so I can get a little soap so I don't have to bother the ashram." And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta became angry and chastised him. "Who told you to do that? Give me the money." And the devotee was a little taken aback. Perhaps he's thinking, gosh, I didn't think Guru Maharaj was so attached to money. It's just a few paisa. "Yes, Guru Maharaj." And he gave him that paisa. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta took it, and then he pushed it back to him. He said, "Now you can take it." He said, "I can digest this money, but you can't." So he said, "This money has come from materialistic persons. So you should give it to me." We should give everything to Gurudev. And Gurudev, he'll take care of us. And persons who want to keep something for themselves, and sometimes they make excuses in different ways. "Well, this is for my service. I'm a brahmacharya, and it's really helpful if I have a gold chain around my neck and an expensive silk dhoti, because then I'm going and preaching to politicians and they'll take me seriously. And that may sound like a joke, but I met quite a few brahmacharis like that here in India who literally were wearing gold chains and wearing expensive silk dhotis. And they had this idea. And whatever, maybe Krishna's inspiring them, I don't know. But maybe Krishna's not inspiring them either. They were keeping some wealth for themselves. And there's so many stories we could tell about that. In the end of I think it's the second canto of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, he cautions the devotees that they should be very, very careful with money, how it comes, and taking from materialistic people, so that so they don't get contaminated by that. So this is the first type of crooked persons who don't get the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam. They're dana kapatis. And again, it's important because it indicates that to get the mercy of Bhagavatam, it's not just a matter of reading the book. It's not even just a matter of praying reverentially. Sometimes devotees say when you read, you should pray reverentially. That's nice. But there's also something active that should be done. And we should be giving. And we shouldn't be kapatis. Even though we're making money, we should give that for the service of Guru and Krishna. So the second type of kapati, crooked, duplicitous person, Guru says, is a bala kapati. He has some strength, but even though Mahaprabhu's kirtan is going on, it's such a tumultuous, wonderful kirtan, he's not dancing in the kirtan. He's got strength, but he doesn't dance. Tandava nritya. He doesn't do that dance in the Gaur kirtan. So we should try to dance. I remember sometimes we commented, and when I joined in Los Angeles in 1982, I had a habit. I would dance the entire kirtan. The kirtan would start, and the devotee would be singing very slow, Namah Vishnu Padaya. And there I was spinning around in circles and jumping up and down. Maybe not so fast, but I made a point that I'm going to dance to the whole kirtan. And from the beginning to the end of the kirtan, I danced. And maybe it was a little artificial in some ways. I have to say this, though. I was in much better health at that time. So we should try to dance in the kirtan. It's such a very, very joyous thing. And then Guru Maharaj goes on. The third type of kapati is a prema kapati. See, someone who's not gotten prema, but he has this abhiman. I am a Vaishnava. I am a great devotee. So if we have that kind of abhiman, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Amita Vaishnava, e buddhi hoili. That if I think that I'm a Vaishnava, then definitely I'm going to go to hell. So Guru Maharaj says these three types of kapatis, they can't get Mahaprabhu's mercy. They can't understand the Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Dharma Tattva. They can't get prema unless they give up their kapacha and enviousness, and they serve Sadhu, Guru, and Vaishnava. They're doing nishkapata seva, service without any duplicitousness. If they render it in that way, then they can get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so even though Mahaprabhu is giving prema indiscriminately, Uttama Adama Kichina Bachava Jachi Adileka Ko, even though he's not considering who's Uttam, who's Adam, who's elevated, who's fallen, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given to everyone, but those personalities, they can't get it. So this is the treasure house of Krishna Prema, which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to give, and it's described in this verse, Anarpita chirim cirat karuna avatirna kalo, something which hasn't been given in a long, long time, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give samarpayitam. He came to bestow this, but how does he bestow it? Who is a custodian? Who is a doorkeeper to that treasure house of Krishna Prema? And does that treasure house have gates or not? And the answer is yes, it does have gates. My Guru Maharaj, another time, he described something similar to this. He said that who gets the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And he described, as quoting from Adi-lila chapter 1, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Mahaprabhu is Gora Singha. He's like a lion. And he has some milk. If you want to get lion's milk, and you go there with a clay pot to collect lion's milk. That lion's milk is so powerful, it'll break the clay pot. So you have to go with a proper container. What is that proper container? To get that mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's Chenadapi Sanichina Taroreva Sahisnana Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sudahari. It's humility. And if we have that humility, if we've given up these different types of kapatya or crookedness, we're not trying to pretend something that we're not. And we're not being crooked with our wealth, we're not being crooked with our strength. Sometimes we should go out and do Harinam. We can do that. We should try to do some book distribution. We should try to do some service for Krishna. If someone's a balakapati, I'm not, my health's not good, I can't do this, I can't do that. And they don't go out. But Srila Prabhupada, we hear at the opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, the Prabhupada had a very high fever. He was very, very sick, but he insisted that he was going to greet all the devotees. And Prabhupada was taking care of everyone, all the devotees, and caring about the devotees and asking how they were doing. He was also greeting all the different VIP guests who were there and the Brahmins and things. And Prabhupada at the same time was overlooking the yajna and the deity installation. At the same time, Prabhupada was overlooking the different construction details which were still going on for the Krishna Balaram Mandir. So many things, hundreds of things Prabhupada was overlooking, even though he was very sick and had a heavy fever. And I heard a remembrance recently about that period of time, which really struck me, that there was one Mataji who came there. And we know that in our ISKCON society, especially at that time, to be a lady in the movement puts you at a great disadvantage. Because only very few ladies like Malati and Jamuna and a few others had any kind of access to Srila Prabhupada. And even amongst those ladies, those very, very early disciples like Govinda Dasi and Jadharani and some others, they didn't have the same access that the men had. But they had something. But I lost track of my thought here. Krishna Kun. Oh yeah, so there's one Mataji who came, I think she'd come from Hawaii or maybe from the West Coast in American California, and she wasn't a big devotee. She wasn't like Govinda Dasi or Jamuna or Jadharani, Shamarani. She was just a simple devotee. And her mother was not a devotee, but her mother was a nice lady. And before she left home, her mother said, "Oh, I want to make something for your Swamiji." And she made some jam for Srila Prabhupada out of, what's that fruit? Do you remember, Krishna Kun? What fruit do we have in the back of our house? It has all the little seeds in it. They're kind of green and they're crunchy. They're good for your stomach.
Is it guava?
Guava, thank you.
That's Vanaviharni said it.
Yeah, thank you, Vanaviharni. So she made some guava jam for Srila Prabhupada. And so Prabhupada's got this high fever. He's giving initiation to 100 devotees or so, and he's giving sannyas to Tripurari Maharaj and the Guru Maharaj. He's installing the deities. He's dealing with these senior people. He's dealing with the Brahmins, the installation, the temple construction, and he has this high fever. And here's this Mataji come, who is a nobody in terms of the movement. And she didn't see Prabhupada personally. She didn't have that kind of position. But she gave that jar of jam to Prabhupada's servant. I guess it would have been Shuta Kirti, or it would have been Harisari Prabhu. And she gave the jam to that servant. And she forgot all about it. And she's absorbed in the festival and things. A day or two after the festival had gone by, Prabhupada, the servant came and said, "Prabhupada's calling for you." "Prabhupada's calling for me? What is it?" And Prabhupada, she went up to see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had written a letter of thanks to her mother for making that guava jam. Prabhupada's not a balakapati. Prabhupada's an old man. He's sick, he's got a high fever, there's so many things going on. He had every reason in the world to just check out completely. And what to speak of checking out completely, who is this Mataji who nobody even knows, is not a very big important person. He brought some jam, a little jar of jam from her mother. But Prabhupada took the time out to write a letter of thanks to her mother. That's the opposite of a balakapati. Jayananda Prabhu is the opposite of a balakapati. We should give up that crookedness. We should use whatever strength we have, and it doesn't mean we should kill ourselves either. We shouldn't do that. As one very senior sannyasi guru in our movement once privately told me, he'd done a lot of austerities for a long time, and giving up sleep and eating very austerely, and he's famous for sleeping on the floor on the ground with no blanket or one thin blanket and no mattress, even during the winter time, and even after he had disciples and things, very austere. And he told me once, he says, Madhavendra, I did austerities for so many years, and the only thing that I got from it was bad health. Hare Krishna. I don't exactly believe that, but we should give whatever strength we have to Guru and Krishna. Prema Kapati. We shouldn't have this very disgusting wanting to show off whatever bhakti that we have. That's also a kind of crookedness. So I want to stop there. I've gone a little longer than I wanted. I'm sorry today, Alex. I mentioned in the beginning I'm about maybe 10% here. I'm really a little tired today. Ashwin's here today. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you. So I'd just like to go around now and ask if anybody has any reflections. Maybe we could start with Bhakti Reed. She's right there, with that beautiful Gobar wall behind you.
Yeah, I was appreciating the description of the different. Oh. Sorry, just got a call. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I was appreciating the different descriptions that were given of the kapatis. I feel that's very important to know in order to assimilate the Bhagavatam. But another point that you were making when you quoted this verse from your Guru Maharaj's Mangala Charana of the Bhagavatam, you mentioned that the Bhagavatam can only be understood if one has Krishna Prema. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Do you mind explaining that a little bit more?
That may sound not correct. I mean, come on, all you got to do is read the book, right?
Right.
And you can give the book to someone on the street. You can go to the hash bash, and someone can't even practically open their eyes. They can't walk straight, or maybe they can read a little bit. They can read the book, and they can understand something. But do they understand? How many people even understand us in our life? Sometimes we feel like my parents don't understand me, my wife doesn't understand, my children don't understand me. Who really understands us? And who really understands Srimad Bhagavatam? Krishna says, Bhakti mama bijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvata. That the only way you can understand me is through bhakti. There is no other way. Again, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said, Aham vedmi shuka vedi vyasa vedi na vedi va. Srila Vyasadeva says that I understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Shiva says, I understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami understands. Vyasa vedi na vedi va. Whether Vyasa understands or not, I'm not really sure. I can't say. Bhakti Bhagavatam gayam, Buddhaya na chatikaya. Na Buddhaya na chatika. You can't understand the Bhagavatam, na Buddhaya, with your intelligence. Na chatikaya. You can't understand it just by reading commentaries. You may think, well, I'll read. Prabhupada wrote a commentary. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has given a commentary. Sanatan Goswami, there's so many commentaries there. I'll read the commentaries, I'll understand. But you can't understand unless you have bhakti. Therefore, Bhakti Bhagavatam Grayam. The only way to understand Srimad Bhagavatam is if we have bhakti. It's absolutely required. Does that make more sense now?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Charitakar Prabhu, do you want to share something with us tonight? What your reflections are? Something that impressed you? Something that touched your heart?
Yeah, actually, I had two things. One was about these kapatis. I was thinking that what we also have maybe some part, maybe we are not like full-fledged of that particular kapati, but something is there. So till what degree can we actually understand Bhagavatam if still this kapati is there, right? Maybe, I
This
don't know.
is such a very important point. If we don't understand this point, some people say, "Oh, Prabhu, that's really so negative." I mean, come on, let's just chant, dance, and be happy. Have a few more gulabjamans and jump up and down in the kirtan, and everything will be okay, right? Sometimes devotees, they say like that, "Why are you being so depressing?" But if we don't understand these principles, then we may get discouraged. We may think, I've been practicing bhakti for so many years. I'm reading Srimad Bhagavatam. It's supposed to give Krishna prema. I'm not getting Krishna prema. It doesn't work. There's something wrong with the process. We may think like that. So we should understand there's nothing wrong with the process. There's something wrong with me. And what is that? It's very important.
And one more thing you mentioned about Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, how he was very attentive to everyone. And I wanted to point out because just recently in one of my group, some devotees, they kind of they didn't complain. They actually asked about if they do Mangala Arati at home or Mangala Arati in the temple, what is the difference? Because they have been preached that Mangala Arati in temple is different than what is done at home. And I saw that Srila Prabhupada was really putting so much, let's say, time and energy for the relationship, and he was attracting people by that, not by any manipulative type of preaching or twisting our philosophy. So was really...
We've had many discussions about this, and I'm sure Brajabani she'll have something to say about this, and Leela Purushottam and some others, because some of us, we have scars. We have wounds where we went as an innocent persons to try to go to the temple and and then someone's trying to control us and trying to force us to do this or that. And we weren't always inspired by those programs. But at the same time, I think we have to reconcile the fact that Srila Prabhupada stressed so heavily the morning programs. So how do we reconcile that? Well, first of all, what is the temple? What is ISKCON? The temples are meant for training new people. And those new people, to get trained, they need to go to the morning program. But ultimately, it doesn't mean that every single devotee, especially someone who's been a devotee for 20, 30, 40 years, that they should be getting up and having some program. But their program may not be the same as in the temple. They may not be doing it with a lot of devotees. They may be doing it at home. And it may be much sweeter for them. But such devotees, they should be mature and never speak against the temple programs because it's necessary for the mass of devotees. Most devotees, especially when they're young, don't have the spiritual strength to conduct a program at home in a steady way and continue it. And therefore the temple is very important, especially for new devotees. And so we support it because it's Prabhupada's mission. Just as with in Jagannath Puri, we often comment that the Jagannath Mandir represents organized religion. And Mahaprabhu was going there 3 times a day, according to Lochan Das Thakur. 3 times a day to have darshan of Jagannath. Actually, he said 4 times, 4 times a day. But at the same time, and he's doing that, he's supporting organized religion, but at the same time, he's staying in the Gambhira, which is close by, but there he's associating with Sri Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Roy, Govinda, just a few intimate devotees, which also teaches us that to develop our internal relationship with Krishna, to go deep, we also need some small intimate sangha. I know I'm looking at Gaurnitai Prabhu right now, and I'm remembering New Brajadam. And when we go there for the big festivals, there's hundreds of devotees and everybody's dancing, and they all dance in kind of a choreographed way together. And Shiva Ram Maharaj is there, but Shiva Ram Maharaj in those programs, he also always has some private prasadam or something. He invites some of the senior devotees, and there's 5 or 6 or 8 devotees maybe there, and he has some private talks with them. He's not only giving himself in public, but there's also some private thing, and we all need that. That's important. But we need to be mature about it. If we start preaching to all the devotees that the temple program is just nonsense and you don't want to do that, and the real thing is just go to your home, the movement will probably fall apart because most new people don't have the strength to do that. And it's good. And also, we need to create some sangha in our temple, so we should always encourage that. And one way I think that we can encourage that is to have our own private programs too, because by nourishing a few groups, small intimate devotees, like we're doing today in this program, then it helps a bigger society. Is that okay, Prabhuji?
Perfect. Thank you,
Lots-
Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Gorni Taipu, since we're mentioning your good name, do you want to share any reflections now?
Thank you very much. First of all, I experienced that speaking about this verse, Anarpita Charam Chirat, so long and so in details, it helps a lot to love that verse. The more I know, more I love it, more I absorb it. So it's very important also. Go on a topic and go on, that's okay, but also stop sometimes and churning, boiling the milk down. It's like that. And this kind of verses is really worth for that churning the essence out from here and there. Otherwise, I have a tendency just go on and not understanding really the verse and not appreciating and not loving that. So the way you are using that conference, that program is very, very, very nice. I like it very much. That's my today's.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You're in the village right now, or are you in New Brajadam? Just out of curiosity.
It's in a village.
Mhm.
The village, maybe 2 kilometers by walking.
Yeah.
I am bicycle 10 minutes. But it's a village.
Nice. Maybe we'll get to visit you someday. I don't know. It's been.
Come, I can give it to you if the temple doesn't give the, but I think they will give you a nice accommodation. But I can invite friends. I can have a little sangha here also, as you told. That's the goal. You told very well. Yeah, that we have parallel programs.
Mhm.
That's very nice.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know for us when we're going to be traveling again. Probably not for at least more or less a year, the way things look. Maybe 6 months or something. It's not really sure right now. And
Yeah,
especially going to America is very, very difficult for us right now because I don't think they'd let my wife in because she doesn't have a vaccination. So anyway, we'll just see. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, we hope that you come with your Krishna Kund. So we're waiting for you. Many devotees mentioning it when Madhavan are coming again. So
We're here with Maharani. I know, so I'm getting to hear some sweet Hungarian every day. Krishna Kun and her. Thank you for Vijay. Hare Krishna. And Natalia, do you want to share something tonight?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was cooking some pizza for children. Just and so camera was off. Yes, three things touched me today. One that to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to have at least some Krishna Prem, or at least the aim to get it. And this verses of Sanatan Goswami, when he speaks to Srimad Bhagavatam as he is the only friend and the only treasure, this always touches my heart, and I really there is my big dream to meet such devotees who are really are guided by Bhagavatam and in everyday life, and really attached so much to Bhagavatam. And also about this different kinds of kapata also is touched me. I spent 3 weeks in Golokat Dham now, and I was very much touched there how devotees they are attentive to new people, to some volunteers who are non-devotees, who some devotees who are just beginners, how they don't judge about the if they do something wrong, but they really give like a lot of love and attention to them. It was amazing. Really, I was like comparing myself to them because I could not give so much love to these devotees, but I was just, amazed how much love they gave.
Sometimes when we're in situations like that, we learn just by seeing the devotees, and we all of a sudden we see what a kapati, what a duplicitous person I am. I'm a bala kapati. I could be working harder. I could be doing so many things. I could be giving money. I could be doing this, or I'm trying to pretend that's something that I'm not. I'm a prema kapati. And when we see devotees who are working so hard like that and giving everything, it's so good for us. We really need association like that. It's really good. Thank you very much, Natalia. Hare Krishna. You cooking for your children?
Yes.
They're happy? You take care.
Soon, they will be soon. Will be ready soon.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Ashwin, are you still here? Let's see.
Yes, Guru. I'm here.
Yeah, there you are.
Hare Krishna.
Would you
I'm
like
I'm in a hotel lobby. That's why I have my mask on.
Okay, yeah. Let's see, you got your mask on. Hare Krishna.
We're traveling in the East Coast. It's Thanksgiving week over here. So we are here we're in New Jersey today. We're going to New York this afternoon. We're going to be in the Bhakti Center, and we're going to see Radha Govindaji in Brooklyn as well. So.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we spent a few days in DC. We went to the DC temple over there. It was very nice.
That's great. How's Neha?
Yeah, she's doing well. Yeah, she spent some time with Ananda Mataji, who's like a mentor. So she had a very nice time with her for a couple of days. So.
I've been thinking about you in our Gora project too. I need to contact you sometime. I was
Yes.
saying this much. Pradosh, who's now Prabhupada Priya Seva, got initiated. He contacted the bank and he said, we have some contacts with the board of directors of your bank, and if you don't give us, we're gonna he started really having them out, and they got back to and I don't, as far as I know, it's still not open.
Oh no!
But they're working anyway.
This is the longest it's ever taken to open a bank account, I think, in the history
Crazy.
of bank account.
Really crazy. Anyway. Okay, but we'll get back to it. There's a lot of things I'm thinking about with this project. I want to get in touch with you. It looks like you're busy. You're traveling. You're going to be a few days, or?
Yeah, we are here till the end of the week, till the weekend, and then we're going back to Seattle.
Okay. Okay, my pranams to Neha. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guru. Hare Krishna.
And Brajabanita, do you want to share something with us? What did you think about all this?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Let's see if I don't know if my camera is working, but somehow it's a new mobile, so I'm not managing still on camera. I appreciated few things, same like Natalia, I think, more or less. But it also reminds me the comments of Srila Prabhupada in your last Krishna Katamrita Bindu. What he said about Krishna, same what what Sanatan Goswami says in his praise about Srimad Bhagavatam. It's almost the same, that he's my only friend, and he's my only hope, and he's my only treasure, and so on. It's very it reminds me. And also I like this point that we can approach to understanding of Bhagavatam through Mahaprabhu's Leela, actually, because we can approach Bhagavatam only through rasa. If we cannot relish or understand rasa, we cannot actually understand Bhagavatam. So that's what I took with me.
Nice. That's really important. When you speak about that rasa point, it reminds me of something actually which Lila Purushottam Prabhu shared with us, and which Lila is coming up in our next issue, Krishna Katamrita Bindu. And actually, I can show you. I'll use a screenshot of this too. This reminds me of what you're saying here, Bhajabani, to how we should be wanting Krishna Prema and understand what is our goal. So this is our next issue of Krishna Katamrita Bindu. It says, this is our editing version we're working on right now, and some of the articles. So the first article is the purpose of Varnashram. This is a letter to Hansa Duda that Lila Purushottam brought to our attention. And I just, Bhakti Rupa Bhai, both, we just love this letter. I want to read this so you can see it at the same time. The Varnashram system is for convenience sake in the material world. It has nothing to do with spiritual life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's
Acceptance of Varnashram means a little easy progress to spiritual life. Otherwise, it has no importance to us. For example, all my European and American disciples have no Varnashram position, but spiritually, because they have followed the rules and regulations and also my instructions, their advancement spiritually is being appreciated by everyone. Always remember that Varnashram life is a good program for material life, and it helps one in spiritual life. But spiritual life is not dependent upon it. After all, the system of Varnashram has to be realized before accepting spiritual life. And the renounced order of sannyas is the last stage of Varnashram. So that's such an important thing. Your comments really reminded me of this, how important it is that we have Krishna Prema. Otherwise, we can't understand Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we don't have that Prema, or at least a direction going toward that Prema, as Natalia was saying, then we're going to fall into the trap of just thinking that there's some empirical information is the goal, and just understanding some verses and memorizing something is understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, because we have a mechanical Varnashram kind of attitude.
And one more point also, that this rasa, or this understanding, or this prem, what this bhava, it's a person. It's completely has its own or his own or his own will. I mean, you yourself cannot do nothing to take it, to grab it. It can only by its free will come to you. That's all. And Varnashrama is not so big help in this, and regulation principles can help, but it depends also. But what's most important, I also like what you say when you quoted your friend about his austerities. Also, it's very touched my heart, because that's what you see. I can see that more austerities make person proud also, and. So Bhava, it's in Bhakti, it's person. He decided, or she decided to where she comes on whom.
Nice. That's a very important point. Bhakti is a person. She decides who she's going to reveal herself to. In his, Bhakti Tattva Vivek, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Bhakti Devi, she doesn't show the face of Krishna when people are approaching her with motivations of austerity, or Varnashram, or karma, or gyan, or like that. She becomes shy then, and he only shows a partial face of Krishna. Otherwise, Bhakti Devi can give us Krishna. She can give us everything. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
There's a couple of nice comments here I just want to read real quick from Gonitai Prabhu. Thank you, Gonitai. Nitya Nam Hate, Okay Javida Bhai. There's a song with that name of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which also explains different officers of the storehouse. In that verse, Sanatan Goswami is a partner manager of the storehouse with Advaita Acharya. And Gonitai says, my experience about Varnashram is that the more I get into the emotions of Krishna consciousness, the more I understand the meaning of Varnashram. I think that there is a correlation between the two realms. Yeah, if someone who's, I'm trying to think of a good example, someone who's just joining a company, they may be told that don't spit on the floor and keep things clean. And that may be your understanding of the company. I have to be clean. I shouldn't spit on the floor. But as you work your way up into the company, and eventually you get on the board of directors, and maybe you become the CEO, then you understand that actually the company is all about making electronic goods and helping, part of the purpose of the company is to help people in third world countries who are poor or this or that. So you have a higher understanding of it, just like someone who if you fly a drone over a forest, you can see the entire forest. Where somebody's inside, they only see one tree. So in the beginning, we have a very limited understanding of Varnashram. We think that Varnashram Dharma is just about don't spit on the floor, and women should keep their heads covered, especially if they're living in Israel. They should cover their heads and like that. And but then later on, as you go, you continue, you see, wow, actually, there's a whole lot more. It's all about bhakti in reality. And as Mahaprabhu finally said, Eho Bhaya, Age Kaha. This is actually external. It speaks something more when we look at it in an absolute sense of bhakti. And therefore, sometimes when we look at an absolute sense of bhakti, sometimes we become discouraged from associating with certain types of devotees. But we should see there's also relative consideration. And that's a bona fide consideration. That's the consideration for Prabhupada's mission. And that's bona fide, and we want to support that. But for ourselves, maybe we need something a little higher, a little more satisfying. Lila Purushottam Prabhu, can you share something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, this discussion is so nice. I was thinking, because I'm joining the Bhagavatam lover club with Natalia and Vrajavanita. I really like that. I was thinking that the best praman for that statement that you can understand Bhagavatam only through Prem would be the Bhagavatam itself, this Muhura Horasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. Like the first verses would be, it immediately came to my mind, this verse, that proves that only when you're Rasika, you can really digest the rasa content of Bhagavatam. So that was one thing. And then in that connection, I really liked like the Sanatan Goswami as a doorkeeper, and how did you connect it with his tikas to Bhagavatam, like how important it is. And even more in that context, I was surprised to hear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is distributing Prem through Bhagavatam. I mean, if you would ask me, I mean, it makes total sense, but if you would ask me, the first thing on my mind would be holy name. And all of a sudden I've heard Bhagavatam, which was quite a surprise, but it's, I guess it can be like both. It's not excluding one or other, isn't it?
There's a devotee friend of mine in America who is a teacher in a school, and she teaches Native American Indians and a number of different people. And she shared something which was very profound to her recently. And she said that I never thought that the Native American Indians had maps, but they do. But their maps are very different than the concept of our maps. And their maps are based on water. And she showed a picture of one map, and it showed the main river and all these different streams and different things coming out of it. So their conception, she says, in our Western conception, we have all these fake boundaries. This is Colorado, this is America, this is Czech Republic, this is Hungary, this is this and that. And they're just imaginary boundaries. And they're not interested in that thing. Rather, they see the water. But not everybody can see that. Again, it's a matter of perspective. And so the Bhagavatam also gives us a map. It gives us some way to perceive what's going on. But who can really see and appreciate that? If we don't have Prema, then we just see the letters. But even those letters also help. And if we read that and we serve the Bhagavatam, there's some hope for us. But while we're serving, we should understand what is our goal. and what we want, and not just that we want a Bhakti Shastri degree or something, you know, and a pat on the back because you know more verses than everybody else. It's not like that. Your voice is a lot more clear right now. Because the car stopped.
Yeah, because we're not driving now. It's the car is not moving now. So so yeah, it was, and it was full of points actually. If I would just go through it, it would be hours. But thank you so much. And also I want to join Gornitai Prabhu's club of appreciating how deeply we can churn this topic, because I have the exact same experience that it used to be for me that the verses are matter of, you know, seconds or minutes or something. You read it, okay, you understand the language, and that's it. But nowadays, and with your help especially, one can, I'm always wondering how much one verse can contain. It's just, it never stops amaze me actually.
Yeah. Yeah, the Chaitanya Charitamrita famously says, famous verse, Prati Shloki, Prati Akshari, Nana.
Yeah, yeah.
Every verse, every syllable of the Bhagavatam has unlimited meaning. So we should approach it in that way. And that'll give us some more satisfaction. I feel very blessed. We were hearing today about Bhakti Vidya Purna Maharaj's class, or yesterday. Naranjan Maharaj, he met with Bhakti Vidya Purna Maharaj something, and he was asking something about the classes. And Maharaj was doing this course, and he says, how long does the course take? And Maharaj said, well, we've been doing it for 12 years so far. But we haven't, we haven't come. That's the kind of course I like. You really take and really dive deep in something, and you may never finish the course, and that's a blessing because we never want to finish it. We want to keep going.
Yeah, and it very much inspires even in my like personal contemplations that I'm like not really rushing through the verses, but to allow myself to be contemplative and really stuck on the topic that I want to digest, or I don't want to use just the word understand, but to digest, to let it work on me on many other levels, or on emotional level, on like that's kind of a new world for me now, and it's very blissful world.
I had a meditation I can share with you guys recently that I was thinking of a way to approach the Bhagavatam, and that is you just read one verse, a special verse that resonates with you, and then think about the particular points on it, and really try to meditate on it and see it from different perspectives and questions. Maybe something doesn't make sense, or how can it be like this, and just really contemplate that one verse for some time, which is what our Bhagavatam classes should be. It's a really nice thing.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Hare Krishna with the
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. And let's see who's left here. We've got. Oh God, it's Jaigor. Is Bana there?
She is.
You know, I'll give you a tip in your life, Jaigor. It's nothing personal. I don't want you to feel hurt by this, okay? But if you go places and you keep Bana Biharni with you, you'll be a lot more popular and people will be more appreciative of you.
Yeah, she's like Surabi. Put her in front when I'm in trouble.
Mana, do you have any reflections or anything? It's nice hearing you're working so hard at the wedding. You're a real blessing for those devotees. It's good.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you for that. One point that I really appreciated was that the pot that can hold the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is humility. I thought that was very sweet, something to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandma said if you collect lion milk, you need a golden pot. And that golden pot for devotees is Chanada Pisa Chinna. That's required. Otherwise, we can't get that mercy. And that's why he said you may be getting so much milk, it's coming and coming and pouring into your your pot, but there's so many holes, so it just leaks right out. And even though we're going on so many harinams and they're so ecstatic and there's wonderful devotees coming and we're hearing class and we're associating with Gurudev and doing service and things, but then our pot's empty. What's happening? We have to look and see the holes in it. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jaguar's being good?
Yes.
That's good. Hare Krishna. And your health's all right?
Yeah, traveling is not fun, but yeah.
Cheers. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm not looking forward to that again. It's like a bad dream traveling. Hare Krishna. Jaguar, do you want to add anything? Any comments or anything?
Ru, I was thinking about kind of Sanatan Goswami as a doorkeeper, and I was also thinking, you know, the Panchatattva, they you know, they plundered the storehouse of love of God and they're freely distributing it. So I was thinking, okay, so what is the necessity of a doorkeeper for the marketplace of the holy name if it's supposed to be being freely distributed? But then there's a doorkeeper, and my understanding of a doorkeeper is something like a bouncer. They're saying who can come in and who can't come in. But then when you were just speaking with the Purushottam Prabhu, I think I understood it a little better. The way that I'm seeing it is that like Sanatana Goswami is kind of seeing, you know, because not that you know, you have to have prema to understand the Bhagavatam. So it's not that you have to have prema to get prema. That doesn't make any sense. But that he's kind of seeing who is serving the Bhagavatam in a sense. Does that make
Yeah, so
sense?
it's like a speakeasy in America in the 1930s. Or you have a place, you know, with a big sign. Is that place right down the street from in Ypsilanti from the temple of some girls, thousands of girls or something, right?
Yeah, you know, that place is going out of business.
Oh, really? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really obnoxious sign. Anyway, so someone may go inside of that, or some place like that, and there's something going on. They understand something, but there's other deeper rooms Hare Krishna, where you may go in, and the Bhagavatam is like that also. And bhakti's like that. We tell new people, just chant, dance, and be happy. And Prabhupada was doing like that. Just chant, dance, and be happy. Everything's fine. And oh, by the way, would you like to get initiated? Oh, yeah, I would. And then Prabhupada put a note on the door the next day. 4 regular principles. By the way, there's this thing. So initially, everything's very easy. But we should understand that there's a back room. There's an inner chamber that we want to go to. That other analogy is not a very good analogy. Something a little brighter. there's a private room that we want to go into, which is like the Gambira, and there's a bouncer. There's someone who's there guarding that. And they're guarding that not in the mood of a bouncer, you know, where's your ID, how old are you, in a mundane way, but they're wanting to see what is your adhikar, what is your qualification, because if you don't have that, you can't go inside there. And we actually need to have that same kind of mood. We should learn from Sanatan Goswami. As Jamuna exhibited here, I often tell the story about her here in Mayapur and how they were doing kirtan, and she was she wouldn't allow new people inside unless they had some invitation or whatever. So we need to have some kind of bouncer like that also in our own private sanghas. If someone wants to come, I get a lot of devotees recently. A number of devotees have written to me about this program we're doing here, and oh, I'd like to join it. And Tirthakar Prabhu is about the only one who's really joined recently. But I've been a little reluctant. In fact, I'll reveal something to you. We have a whole nother group separate from this one in South Africa, which I'm doing programs with twice a month now. And I don't want to mix the two together right now because I don't want to mix the two together at all. I want to have, it should be very intimate, each particular group. And we can only do that so many times. I don't know how many groups we're going to be able to work with, but there should be some bouncer. It's not just that anybody who wants to join that program can just, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, I'm initiated, I was on your program, I want to come. No, you know, what is your qualification? What is your intimacy? Because otherwise it causes problems. And I've seen that, I've experienced that so many times when you give a class in a temple and you mean well, and even you're quoting the acharyas or something, but because some of the devotees don't have faith in you, maybe they become envious. Why are you saying this or that? Then everything becomes spoiled. So it's so very, very important that we understand, first of all, who the qualification of our listeners is, and secondly, that we cultivate association with a small group of persons. And wow, look who's here, Ujjvala Rasagya. Do you have anything else, Jaguar?
No, I just had that question. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So good to see you guys. You guys get some rest after traveling, okay? Bana, you look a little tired. I'm saying it because I'm tired today. Today was a hectic day for me. Ujjvala, do you want to share anything? You got a brick wall behind you, or you're at home? It looks like, oh, there she is. She's inside the hospital right now, going outside to the brick wall, I think.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Pranams to you, Prabhu, and to all the devotees there. Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you joined pretty late. Did you get anything today? Where's the brick wall? I just see the outside.
Okay, I'll go to the brick wall. The Pariprashnena brick wall.
Yeah, they're going to put a plaque there, something that says Ujjwala's brick wall.
I knew I was joining late, but I thought I'll be able to hear a little bit from you all, or maybe see, or maybe just be present for a moment, and that's why I logged in.
Thank you so much. That's such a good attitude. Thank you. I know it's hard for you. Being a doctor is not an easy thing. Actually, being a doctor, to me, to tell you something really discouraging, I think it must be one of the most hellish jobs in the world. I'm sorry to say, especially in India, everybody's wanting to pull on you all the time. It's so busy, so much in demand. So I really appreciate you able to take part a little bit.
Actually, Prabhuji, I cannot see myself anything other than being a doctor, Prabhuji, because I think there is a little opportunity to be of some help when somebody needs the most, in whatever capacity we might be able to. So that way I feel.
If you're not dedicated to it, you can't do it. You have to be fully dedicated. God bless you. That's really good. You have to care for people. It's like being a sadhu, sadhu vaidya. Sadhu is also kind of vaidya, kind of doctor. And I see the same thing in ISKCON, especially the sannyasis. Everybody, Maharaj, I want your time. I want to talk to you. I want this and that. And everybody, and they just give so much of themselves. It's really, really intense. And that's what it means to be a doctor.
You're doing the same too, Prabhuji, for all of us. You're being our doctor, helping us. So.
Hare Krishna. So did you get anything tonight out of this discussions or anything? I don't think you heard anything exactly, but you said.
I'm just having darshan of you and all devotees and then random words, but not really much of katha.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway,
I will hear the recording.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking part. You know, it really helps because, again, our purpose is we want to create a Sangha. So sometimes even when we do some retreats or seminars, I even tell devotees that if you're going to come to this, my request is that you come every day and that you don't miss any of them. And if you're going to miss, if you can't come every day, then please, maybe you should just drop out right now. I tell them very bluntly like that. And a few people usually leave, whatever. But then what happens, the devotees who are there, it creates a more serious atmosphere. They're more dedicated. and we can feel their presence. It's really, really good. Because that's what this is all about. We want to hear a little something from everybody too. Okay.
Prabhuji, I didn't get any information now, but I got the bhakti that I need. So I'm still getting it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I'm going to finish now. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go see a doctor. Because I've been running all day today, nonstop with classes and appointments and things, and much, much more than I usually do. I'm really a little run down right now. So, and someone tried to kill us today at lunch with 2 pieces of cheesecake and chocolate donuts, and oh my God, it was really a dangerous lunch. So, Hare Krishna. Life's dangerous, right? Okay, thank you, Ujjwala, very much, and thank you to everybody.
Thanks.
So let me just look real quick at my calendar because there's some strange things coming up. Today's Tuesday, so next week should be just the same, and I think that on the 8th also we'll be able to be here, and then let me look here for the next month. The 8th, the 5th, yeah. So the 15th is a little dicey. I'm not sure what's going to happen on the 15th because we'll be traveling. We'll be arriving in Puri that day. I may be too exhausted to do something, but we're going to spend about 4 or 5 days in Kolkata at the BRC in the library and looking for some old books and things and working on a Gora project. Okay, nice to see all of you. I really appreciate your Sangha. I wish we could have some physical association. We had a wonderful kirtan last night with Niranjan Maharaj, and when we did kirtan at almost 10 o'clock or something, from like 7 o'clock to about 10 o'clock, it was really ecstatic. I was thinking of Jai Gaur playing Mridanga. I would have liked it very much. Okay, so thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vanchakalpatarubhascha, Kripasindhubhyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Namo Kori Vaishnava Binda ki jai.